Well, things getting back to normal for Newcastle United, whatever normal will be these days after what's been an unbelievable couple of weeks. Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup, of course, and then parading it in front of almost 300,000 fans around the city on the town moor over the weekend. Newcastle getting familiar again with St James's Park. It's been a 30-day gap here since the last fixture, that 2-1 defeat against Brighton, and so much has happened since then. But Newcastle now have to get back into the zone. They face a Brentford side who, beat Newcastle 4-2 back in December when things did not seem as rosy in the garden for Eddie Howe as they are now. But look, Newcastle United will go into this game full of confidence and knowing that with 10 games to go, there's a real opportunity to push on and get that Champions League place. There's a double at stake for Newcastle. They've already got the Carabao Cup in the bag. Can they get that Champions League qualification like they did in 2023? An extra place up for grabs as well. Remember, Newcastle have the opportunity to be sure to be at that top table of European football next season. But look, I think there's plenty that can be said about where Newcastle go from here. But it starts against Brentford, against Thomas Frank's side. Thomas Frank's side not very good in that Carabao Cup tie back in December when Sandro Tonali was on the score sheet. So this is an opportunity really to kick on and get something, just to get the season restarted, if you like, because obviously all the ups and downs that came before that, everyone's forgotten about it because of what happened at Wembley. But Newcastle can't be complacent now. They've got to go into this game knowing that there's a real opportunity to pick up 3 points, and I think that's exactly where the players' heads will be at. I spoke to Harvey Barnes at the weekend. He said that the players have already held a meeting amongst themselves, saying that they can't let this slip now. This is an opportunity to push on and really cement their achievements this season. Champions League, all about money, all about Eddie Howe getting a better transfer kitty than he's currently got. Yes, there's a Europa Conference League place in the bag, but I think ultimately now Newcastle go into this game against Brentford knowing that they can really push on, and I think that's really important here to get the environment back, get used to being back on that pitch. And those 10 games now are a big chance for Newcastle to really make this season something spectacular. It's very special at the minute. It's now about whether they can make it very spectacular, and I think that's the challenge ahead of Eddie Howe and the players going into that game against Brentford. Well, Eddie Howe held his morning press conference here at the club's media centre, and it is very much back to business now for the Magpies going into that game against Brentford. There's been a long 2-week period where Newcastle have, they've had the euphoria, they've had everything that goes with winning a trophy, the parade, the town moor presentation, all the celebrities out in force, and I think really now for Newcastle it has to be back to reality, and that reality has to be beating Brentford and getting 3 points to make sure Newcastle stay in that Champions League race. That was what it was all about for Eddie Howe. But I did get the feeling today that the cut-off point from the celebrations Saturday's side, behind the scenes, I think was a long time ago. Newcastle have been training. Eddie Howe documented that there'd been 4 training sessions in Dubai alone with the players he had to work with, and I think very much over my shoulder at the training ground here, they have been looking at that Brentford game very closely for quite a while now. It's not like they're just going to roll in from the parade, have a couple of training sessions and face Brentford. The work is meticulous, and that's something that Eddie Howe has made very clear throughout his time as Newcastle United manager. I asked Eddie Howe if it felt like a life-changing experience winning the cup, but really he just wants to get things back down to earth for Newcastle, and they know that first 10 minutes of that Brentford game is going to be very important. Obviously there's no Anthony Gordon for this game, he's suspended, but he could be back for the Leicester game. That was one of the lines to emerge from this. Sven Botman should be back for the end of the season, looking at a May return, so not too far for him. And Jamal Lascelles, Eddie Howe not quite sure on whether he will play again or not this season, so could be a longer wait for him. We'll have to see what happens as well with his contract, which expires at the end of the season. So there's a lot of things that still need to be decided before the end of the campaign. But for now, it's about Brentford. It's about getting the 3 points. It's about moving on from winning the Carabao Cup, taking all the good things from that, but also making sure there's no complacency going into the next Premier League game.